Friends and enemies, welcome back to the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast. This is number, what did I write in the title? 212, which is, by my math, something like 35 in billion, less than Mark Carney is planning to add to the national deficit. My name is Joey. That is Len. Did you watch a game last night? Hey, did you catch the game last night?
No, I didn't. Who won?
Leafs won 6-2.
Okay.
Yeah, good start for the Make Me Laughs.
Okay, good for them.
Yeah.
I know they're playing the Senators, but I had no idea what the score is.
How you been?
What can I say? Weather shit, right? Like,
I just took my dog for a walk. It's like 16, 17 degrees over here.
It's stopped raining though.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's whatever. It is what it is. It's another gray day in Southern Ontario. Look, I like this currency, the $1 Singapore dollar. That's the one we got to adopt, right? The Singapore dollar. Like, look at this beauty.
It's amazing that you've managed to hold this up upside down, not once, but twice on both sides. People are not getting the...
Oh.
There, you go. There we go. Looks great. Thanks to friend of the show, Dan Wedge, for that banger.
Did you know that Mark Carney's signature is on the $20 bill?
Yeah, we've talked about that.
We have? Okay.
Yeah.
And is he on...
When he was talking about... Oh, I don't know if he's on others, but we were talking about when he first started claiming he was not an insider. And I said, how many insiders do you know that have their autograph on the 20? I doubt that's a big number. I think that's probably it's two separate circles Venn diagram, if I had to guess. I don't know what you think, but that's my guess for sure.
He's just a common Joe, a common Mark. And yeah, well, whatever. It's working for him because it looks like there's a lot of people going out to vote.
Yeah,
for him and for the other guy as well. So whatever they're doing, they're drumming up a lot of interest. And today's the last day that you could do the advanced voting. So if you
did you go yet?
Done so? No.
Yeah, I'm gonna go next Monday, I guess. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about all that. We have a lot to discuss tonight. Let's talk about the sponsors first, then we'll do a little housekeeping and boost. As always, Easy DNS, the best place for you to register your domain. Mark is your friendly neighborhood domain registrar. We've used him for websites that we've bought at EasyDNS or register with EasyDNS. We've used him for websites that we've had given to us, that we've moved over from other places, and you guys should be doing the same. No matter what you're doing, you need a website these days. And there's no better place to do this than with Mark. For a couple extra bucks, you get the DomainSure Security Suite, which we talk about every week on Access of Easy, a podcast you guys should be listening to, because more and more we're talking about things there that we then end up talking about here months later in the Bitcoin space related to cybersecurity. But DomainSure, make sure you don't get nabbed by some nefarious actor. We talk all the time about data being stolen, websites and emails being spoofed. And obviously on this show, we discussed, Coinbase having these problems over the years. They wouldn't happen if EasyDNS was their registrar.
The best one I've seen, I don't mean to cut you off. The best one I saw, there was a website that came out and it was my keys, my private keys safe or something like that.
Stop. And people put in their keys.
Somebody, I don't know if anybody has done that, but I found it to be absolutely brilliant if you're going to be preying on people that just don't know and are trusting. It's something along those lines. Maybe I got the wording incorrect, but you get the gist of it.
Yes.
And I guess anybody that submits their information on there, they're in for a lot of tough times ahead.
Yeah.
But I wonder, does it find out if it's Bitcoin or not Bitcoin? Because
I don't know.
And I don't know how you can figure that stuff out.
I mean, there's probably some script running that does it pretty easily. But if you use Mark, you don't have to worry about that. And then obviously, if you're a Bitcoiner, I mean, you can do anything over there with the virtual private server options. You can run a Bitcoin node, Nostr relay. You want to do BTC Pay server for yourself or your website. It's all you, man. Not to mention that they have pretty easy WordPress extensions and other things you can use to share data, blog posts. No market wrap from CBP this week, but next week we'll get back at it once things slow down here in the family realm. Go over to EasyDNS, use the code CBP Media. You get 50% off your first round of buys. Pretty good. That's not a bad deal, I would say. Who's the other sponsor?
It's Bull Bitcoin, but you're going to have to help me out for this because I'm not sure exactly I understand this. So I don't even know what the price is of Bitcoin. It went up from what I heard today. I don't
Call
know.
it 86 or 87. I don't know.
All right, that sounds good. If you like it and you want to buy, a good place to buy is from Bull Bitcoin. If you like it and want to sell, a good place to sell is with Bull Bitcoin. On-chain, Lightning, you have your different options there. Last I checked, on-chain is still rather cheap, although I didn't check before Sunday, so I don't know if things have changed in the last day or so. Either way, on-chain is the way to go, at least for the time being. But it's not just simply buying or selling Bitcoin. There's other things you could do with it, right? It's Bitcoin, you could be using it as a medium of exchange one of two ways. You can start paying your bills with that. Use the Bull Bitcoin bill service to do that. You got an outstanding car payment, outstanding credit card payment. You could use your Bitcoin to pay that. Might as well. Bitcoin sitting at 86, 87K. Good time to do that. Another thing you could do with your Bitcoin, you could start spending that indirectly in the real world by buying gift cards through Bull Bitcoin. And that way you can start spending your Bitcoin when you go to, say, Home Depot or Starbucks or whatever, because they're not going to take your Bitcoin direct. But with a gift card that you purchase with your Bitcoin, well, that's one way you can start spending your Bitcoin in the real world. Use our promo code below and you'll get, Joey?
You get 25% off your fees. So instead of just $21 once, you get a quarter of the fees, refunded or not charged, which is pretty good. Bull Bitcoin already has super low fees. So for them to do this, if you're a frequent buyer, I know you guys are buying frequently. I can tell by the volume. This is going to be worth a lot more to you than the $21. So I'm pretty hyped about this. I didn't know this. Guillaume told us this last week after the show. And I don't know when that change happened, but it's a lot better, honestly. Just when you thought these guys couldn't do anything more for you, here they go.
If you're going to be a frequent buyer,
yeah,
this is going to add up in the long run to be, especially if you're doing large dollar purchases.
It won't even take that long. It's like if you buy $500 every month, you're going to get more than $21 back in 2 months, 3 months, something like that. If I had to guess, I don't know exactly how long, but yeah, you're gonna be doing pretty well for sure.
And the good thing about them, talking about Bull Bitcoin, is they're not custodial. There's so many exchanges out there that are, and you can't complete a buy through Bull Bitcoin without providing a Bitcoin address. It may not be a correct one. It's up to you to provide that, but you have to provide a Bitcoin address. So they don't hold on to your Bitcoin. That is really what you want from an exchange. You don't want to give them an opportunity to rug you, and Bull Bitcoin will not rug you because, well, they don't have any Bitcoin to rug you with. So I like that.
It's great. Let's do some boosts. Then we'll move on to housekeeping.
All right. Wartime. 333 sats. Did a bunch of sats this week. And he says, sorry for my hieroglyphs. It's my way of being lazy and saying hello. And he says the thing is not a firecracker. It's a dynamite. So I said to his couple of firecrackers, no, it's dynamite. So yeah, there you go.
Great.
He also writes in for another 333 sats. There are still good women out there. Just snagged one. Alas, I did not get a girlfriend this cycle. Moved her straight to wifey. Congratulations.
Congrats. So, yeah. Where's the, I don't know, like, have you looked in the mail for your wedding invite, Len? I haven't seen mine. Maybe it got lost, or the strike is still delaying it, maybe?
That's a good wartime. What are you doing, buddy?
God, we got to figure that out. I'm surprised I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, interesting. For a guy who talks to us every week, like I don't talk to all my friends every week. This guy talks to me more than some of my friends, so I'm surprised I'm not. I mean, you can even throw me at the table closest to the bar. Like, I'm not going to be offended.
I'm not going. I don't leave the video. Actually, I will. Fuck that. I'm going. Joey, Mo BTC Dick, 500 sats. He says tariffs, globalism failing, the money printer. It's all noise. Stack sats. And totally. You know what? He's 100% right. Really, the thing I go off these days, if I have more sats today than I had yesterday, I'm happy. It doesn't have to be a lot, even just a little bit. I am very happy. As for the price, as for this and that, I'm trying to shut it out because a lot of this I can't control, right? It's going to happen regardless if I worry about it, think about it, do anything. Yeah. So I just do my thing, control what I can, which is my stack of Bitcoin. And yeah, I try to increase that. So he's right.
Totally agree. These days, especially, like, we'll talk a bit today about some of the mayhem and madness and like the liberal platform, among other things. And it's another reason to just ignore. I hate to say ignore politics because it will not ignore you, as the saying goes. But you have ways to make yourself more agile and more difficult to corral. And Bitcoin really is, like, if not the top of the list, it's very close. So I think you should be thinking about your Bitcoin stash. Yeah, more than ever, I would say, today than ever before.
And he writes in another one, Mo BTC Dick does, 500 sats again. What are your guys' thoughts on Strategy, formerly known as MicroStrategy,
Oh my God.
needing to sell in 2026 possibly? I've always been wary of Saylor's plan, but I worried he could be the black swan that sparks the next bear market. He ain't selling.
He doesn't have to sell because the shares, like the debt is convertible. So
he didn't sell when it went to 15K. Why would he sell at 2026?
Well, because he's bought a lot above 75 and 80, right? And so there's people out there, you know, I haven't vetted any of this, but there's people out there who say at 60 he starts to sweat a little bit. At 50 he's sweating a lot more. I think it's actually the number's a lot lower than that.
There is no number. The number is he starts sweating is when he can't raise any more money.
Here's the thing, right? The Bitcoin price is that number. Those numbers are one and the same. And so on paper, they may not be one and the same, but for the people who are buying that debt, those numbers are one and the same.
If he starts selling,
that number? I don't know.
What happens to the price of Bitcoin?
I mean, he's got enough to move the market like big time. And not even that. Like the thing is that the sentiment will be what moves the market. He won't dump everything at once, even if he runs like a very obscure and discreet selling operation. It will tank. As soon as someone gets wind, that's going to be a big drop in the price for sure, like 50%, 40% if I had to guess.
So it's really the price of Bitcoin does have something. Really, for me, it's 100% tied to how much money he could get. If he could dilute, if he could borrow, as long as he's able to do those two things and maybe some other things as well, to just somehow raise more money, the amount he has doesn't really matter. The amount of Bitcoin he has, 2026 possibilities, so all this shit doesn't matter. He's committed to continually stack away, and he has a plan to just dilute, I guess.
Yeah.
Borrow as much as possible.
Sell pictures of his feet. Maybe sell that nice boat he's got behind him and all those videos. I don't know. Or that fractal encrypt artwork he's got too. Yeah, I don't know. You know what? Don't worry about Saylor. He's, I think, more likely a government operative than not. So you don't think so? I think he might be. That's my opinion anyway. So you nod your head or shake your head, but
no. Wartime also writes in at 3,333 sats. He loves his threes. And he says, with respect to how can you start living a unhypnotized life with True Heather? He said, it needs a part 2. Great conversation.
It was good. Maybe if we're done with the boost, we'll move to housekeeping here.
Yeah, we are.
I felt vindicated talking to Heather because in our Discord, I've been like talking to you guys and trying to tackle like this, what seems to be like a StreamYard audio problem with good microphones. And Heather came on and had a good mic, has a podcast. I've listened to her podcast. The audio is good. I listen to when I do like the quick currents and some of the interviews, and Len and I, like the audio is good, but there's a problem with leveling between two mics. And I went to the StreamYard help page the other day, and they have this new section for quality microphones and audio equipment that they did not have before. And so that tells me that sometime in the last few months, they've realized that not everyone is using a Logitech webcam and a laptop mic, and that people actually paid, a couple $100 for a mic and some headphones. And some of the stuff they were doing on the, I would guess on the rendering side or like the audio quality side, you were really swimming upstream if you had that equipment before. In Heather's show, I think that she probably has a cloud lifter to go with that SM7B mic and maybe some audio interface on her computer to make things sound a certain way. But we got into trouble when the echo cancellation on her end turned off and her levels dropped off a cliff. Then we got into trouble again when she put on headphones, AirPods that were wireless. Like I have these like whatever AirPod Max headphones. And when you put them with your computer, when you pair them, your computer picks up the mic too. So on the video side, there was a lot of feedback. It's not unlistenable, but it's not a good experience. So I want to apologize for that. On the audio side, I spent a lot of time cleaning up the audio and getting rid of all the echo that I could. I think it sounds really quality, and I think it's more than listenable. It's not quite up to the standard that we would normally release, but it's there now. And, as you can see, Len, I gave Len a mic that we bought for the show a few years ago. I replaced it with this mic. And so now we're both operating on a similar plane.
I got the hand-me-downs, baby.
Well, that's a good mic too. Like that's a $300 mic, and this one's about $350. Well, because when we started buying stuff for the show, I thought I want this to sound professional, and it was easier then because StreamYard wasn't doing all this digital work on the audio, right? And so now they are, And we've been sending our guests now a link to that help page and saying, you got to follow these instructions. So from here on out, shouldn't have that problem. The audio should be level between Len and I now. I expect that it's going to sound good in post, and everything should be fine. Other housekeeping, I was on Pleb Underground last week on Friday, had a blast with Phil. He did our show a couple of weeks back. I want to bring him and Sir Ulrich on to talk about more stuff in Bitcoin. Those guys are a lot of fun. I think that we're aligned on the mission and the message in a lot of ways. And like I said before, trying not to do stuff that's dumb, trying not to do stuff that's clickbaity. And then I see Millennial Moron in the chat. Brother, what's up? He's going to be coming on in 2 weeks to talk about presumably the election outcome as well as some other stuff. I mean, there's a lot to discuss in Canada these days, whether it's housing. I do want to talk about pensions a bit. I do want to talk about some Canadian equity stuff compared to the USA, and maybe just some of the fallout from the data that's becoming, I think, more mainstream, thanks to guys like Richard Diaz, obviously friend of the show, and Dicker and the Looney Hour guys, sharing all the time. Like, don't talk to me about vibes. Talk to me about gross fixed capital formation. Talk to me about talk to me about GDP per capita. Talk to me about the OECD ranking for all our economic data. Like, don't talk to me about, again, Minister Freeland today tweeting, we're the best economy in the G7. It's just so obviously not true. And that data is, if the data is so poorly understood and so poorly recorded that we can spin that, then the data is not worth collecting and reporting on. And so I'm looking forward to talking to him. And then this week, Tuan is coming on to talk mining, I guess?
Yeah, home mining and the way to heat your home with that. It's not simply just putting a miner in one room and having that just provide increasing the ambient temperature there. It's using the central air in your house to do it. So it's quite a interesting setup. And I got a briefing from him last week about it, and the way it's driven, it's really cool how it's done. And we'll go into a deep dive into this, the likelihood that people would want it, how likely, like if it's worthwhile to actually install it in your house.
Right.
And because let's be honest, electricity is not cheap here in Ontario, but if you're heating your home and you have central air, then this might be one way to just maybe take a little bit of the load off your furnace and earn some sats at the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll
Very
get some
cool
numbers to see what you could earn and given today's hash rate so forth. So
I'm looking forward
tomorrow.
to that.
I'm chatting with him tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow, not Wednesday. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I want to note here. So one more episode note, programming note. Next week, very exciting, election night special. Me, Len, Tom Karadza, Mark Jeftovic, Francis, and none other than Boomer in the chat. Booking agent slash friend of the show, friend of Len and I. I'm really looking forward to that episode. It's going to start at about 8 o'clock. Don't quote me on that time. If we decide to start a bit earlier, a bit later, don't be mad. And we're going to go until, what do you think, 9:15, 9:30, something like that?
Whenever we feel we're ready to.
Yeah, ish.
I don't want to give a hard time. I want to just go based on the vibe. If
Yeah.
we're running out of steam, if the chat's dying down, let's get the fuck out.
Agreed. Last comment here. I know this is long housekeeping. Every week there are like a few hundred people watching this show live. I don't know how many are on YouTube because I don't look at the YouTube stream. But if you are on Twitter and want to participate in the live chat, I implore you, go to YouTube. If you are on Twitch and want to participate in the live chat, I implore you, go to YouTube. It's not just so I can type back to you. It's so that you can talk to other people instead of just sending your comments into the ether for me to look at, not be able to type back to. I might interrupt the flow of the show if I respond. I might not.
What the fuck is with this ETH talk?
I know. Sorry. I didn't mean
Is
to
this
say
bankless
that.
time
I
already?
didn't mean to say that. But that's the
review?
point I'm making. Len, one other thing. I never do this on this show. My football conditioning and review channel has surpassed 80,000 plays and is now like the third month in a row of 5-figure plays in the month. Nice. I am very excited about that. Very excited. For a channel that started with me just reviewing footballs that I thought were easy to throw as a quarterback compared to others, I am pumped about that. So I just want to thank people who have been visiting me over there too. It's a different vibe, I have to say, but it's a lot of fun. I enjoy making those videos, so thank you.
Want to dive right in because
let's hit it, man. Yeah, let's hit it.
A very long intro. The Bitcoin Core, we'll talk about that right off the bat because this came out. Version 29.0 was released in the past 7 days. And with that, now that makes Bitcoin Core version 26 and all derivatives of that reach its end of life, because if you look at the maintenance schedule for that, it's no longer going to be receiving any critical updates. So anybody that's running version 26 or older, beware, because if there are any critical updates that should be applied or people are aware that are going to impact those, you should update your software to something more current, at least version 27 or newer, or maybe even as an alternative, do Bitcoin knots. And it's certainly it's an option. It's good to have these options out there. And with respect to version 29 and the goodies it may contain, it's nothing groundbreaking. There's some network improvements that are in there. The replace by fee is now standard. The option was enabled in version 28.
That is big. I think that is a big development.
Well, it was already in 28, so it's now standard in 29. So people like Peter Todd, I think, are going to be very happy about this recent. Well,
are you not happy? You're not happy with that? You don't like that change?
It's good. It's good to have it.
RBF, it's great. RBF's important. I think it's a nice new feature.
But you could have always enabled it, right?
I know, but it's like, now it's part of the the landscape. Wow. It's in the picture now at all times.
I like having options, to be honest. That's me, and I like, if I want to enable it, I can. If I want to not enable it, I don't need to. Just, I'd prefer to have that type of. But either way, DB cache is now, the limit used to be 16 GB. That is now eliminated in totality. That's because computers have a lot more resources available to them, and also the recent UTXO growth set has basically forced the core developers to eliminate the DB cache limit. And the compiling process has changed, and it's now migrated from AutoTools to CMake. And AutoTools is a legacy configuration used for portability, and CMake is a newer kind of things. It's a new kid on the block, and it's better for cross-platform. And not sure how many people here compile their own version of Core. I'll raise hands for anybody that does. I do. I'm probably one of the few that do that. CMake, you need version 3.22 or higher in order to compile it. So there we go. If you are a Core runner, update your Core. If you're running 26 or older, just my 2 cents.
What do you want to see in a version of Core that's not there now?
I don't know.
I have nothing. These are updated so infrequently, and I am surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised that you're not a little more excited about this, because it seems like the feedback on Twitter is that this is a really nice update and a little more than what we're used to getting from the Core dev team on Core.
What is the big one here? And there's some networking improvement.
I think about, like, invisible plain sight, it's RBF. The networking stuff, I don't know. The 16 gig limit, I guess, makes sense. I don't know why it took so long to remove that, though. What do you think? I don't know. You tell me.
RBF is nice, but it was, again,
that's a flagship change. That is a flagship change.
It was there in 28, so like it's not like it wasn't there. It's now just standard part of the software right now. So you had the option previously to enable it or not. Good, great. I don't know.
What do you want to see then? You tell me what you want to see.
To be honest, just, if anything, I want stability, and I want any critical things to be fixed. That's the big thing. In terms of changes to Bitcoin, what do we need right now in terms of changes to Bitcoin?
I don't think much, honestly.
I am part of,
I would like to see, what I would like to see, and actually Wilhelm in the chat is talking about the CoinKite teleport feature. I would like to see something that makes wallet transport, I dare I say, easier than memorizing 12 words. There's not many things easier than that, but I'd be curious if there's a way to innovate on that front, given that people are looking to be more agile in the face of increasingly difficult tax laws in the modern world. I think a lot of Bitcoiners are going to be running up against that in the next 5 years, 10 years. So I'm curious if there's innovations to be made there. But otherwise, yeah, I'm not really sure where I want Core to go next.
There's a border wallet, I think, that's been enabled in Sparrow, where you could just memorize a particular pattern.
Yeah, and you need a file to go with it, though. You need a file to go with it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's border wallet. You're talking about border wallet and Sparrow. Still really good, but it's not a perfect solution. I hate that I'm even saying that, because obviously I've contributed exactly zero to wallet technology. But interesting stuff all the same. Do you want to talk about the cold card teleport thing a little bit?
I won't talk about teleport. I'll talk about the co-signing.
Sure.
Teleport.
Sure.
I'm still wrapping my head around it. And to be honest, it's a feature from what I gather, I'm not going to use at all. But either way, the co-signing thing, it's now available on the Mark IV if you are using firmware 5.4.2, and also on the Q version, firmware version 1.3.2Q. So if you're using any of those or newer, you get access to something called a cold card co-signing. And when this is enabled, a second seed is then added to your cold card, and this is known as a spending policy. And the new seed is used along the main seed of the device, and it's kind of creating a 2 of N multi-sig wallet.
Mhm.
And with that, you could put on some spending policies. So rather than having a wallet where you could drain it in totality without any barriers whatsoever, you could put some rules, some spending rules in this to protect your funds and also give you a little bit more flexibility moving forward. So you could put limits on how much Bitcoin can be spent in a single transaction. You could also restrict how fast Bitcoin can be sent, requiring a minimum number of blocks to be built between transactions. You could also whitelist where you are going to be sending Bitcoin. This is sounding a little bit like CTV in a way.
Yeah.
So it's giving you the ability to whitelist addresses where you could send it. And there's also 2FA where you could use mobile 2FA for authentication. So this is something I find to be rather fascinating. I haven't yet dove deep into it, but if you are concerned about your stack and you want to provide a little bit more security, rather than using something like Liana and time locking it, you could use something like this. This is another alternative. Again, options are good. Let's have as many options available so the consumer, the end user, you and I, and everybody listening and watching can make a decision what works best for them. The key teleport stuff, I'm not too up to date with that, so I can't speak on it. Unless you have some information you want to share.
I'm going to share. I'll share the website. I think this is pretty interesting, only because I don't want to speak ill of MVK and the team there because I don't know enough about this either yet. But this is interesting. So it's basically cloning a cold card via anything from a Zoom call to a video call of some kind. So if you ever want to leave the country and have your Bitcoin available to you when you get to the other place, or like someone stays behind and then you can send the Bitcoin this way, it's neat. But this, I think, really flies in the face of your mission against connectivity in a lot of ways, right? Like you don't want to be sharing anything related to your key, your wallet, your device over a digital medium. I don't know how secure this is or isn't because I don't know enough about it yet, but I want to see Ben do a video on this and find out what he thinks about it, because really that's the guy to ask. And he's not afraid to point out some of the issues or errors. We could also just ask D to come on the show. I never even thought about calling him. But maybe we'll bring him on in the next little while to talk about some of these new features and do a rundown. He also does videos for the CoinKite YouTube page. So, one of these guys will have a video soon and we can see this in action. I think as you mentioned, options, great. I just don't want to be sacrificing security for ease, right? And so, I mentioned earlier that I want to see some innovation on the wallet side. This is exactly what I'm talking about, the teleport. I just don't know how well this can be secured. I need to know more about this file, right? Like
it's encrypted though. That's one thing I
but like
aware
encrypted
of.
is just another word for trusting someone to encrypt for you, right? Is that,
Well, there are, I don't want to speak specifically on this, and I don't know what type of encryption methodology it uses, but there's a lot that are open source and it's been tried, tested, and true. So to say encrypted, there could be some backdoor to it, or there's a trust. I mean, it's software, and you could analyze the code and you can see Bitcoin itself. We have SHA-256, for example, right? And so if there's any sort of potential to crack it, it's just going to pivot and make it more secure, just like any of these encryption programs. So I don't know. So I can't speak too much. We should enable D to come on. That'd be pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I'll have to give him a call.
Because there's been a lot of it in his life that's changed too, and it'd be good to catch up on that as well. Firmware with Bitmain. I'm not sure if you saw this. Bitmain had some firmware updates with their S21 pluses. That's very powerful machines. And there's some shenanigans going on with these firmware updates. A guy by the name of Sinjenko I think that's whatever. Either way, this guy's on Twitter. I pronounce his name, probably butchered. I don't give a fuck.
Sorry, buddy.
He's saying if you update your firmware on your S21 Plus to the latest firmware, you're going to have difficulties connecting to Ocean mining pool. Why? Seems very odd. Like, why would Bitmain limit the ability to connect to Ocean mining? I mean, this could be a long-standing issue from the block size war between Jihan Wu and Luke Dashir, right? I mean, they were on different sides of the fence here when it came to which side they wanted to go. Either way, this applies to the firmware dated March 14th, 2025. So if you have that particular firmware on your S21 Plus, you're not going to have any ability to connect to the Ocean mining pool. Instead, you have to use firmware February 7th, 2025. That's the alternative you could use for your ASIC, and then that will enable you to connect to the mining pool. I just find this odd. Like, maybe that's the reason. There could be some long-standing bad blood between Jihan and Luke. That's the only thing I could think of. Or there was just some oversight somewhere. But why would it stop connecting one particular pool? It just seems strange to me. I don't know.
I'm going to post a link to the tweet in the chat. Yeah, so Luke is saying that he thinks it's nefarious and says it's not the first time that Antminer and Bitmain have done this. They've hidden stuff in there before and then only ever released a patch once too many people from the community are making noise that they can't avoid it. Luke has released, I'll quote the tweet, though if someone has an impacted S21 Plus, they can merge this hack into their preferred datum tag to hold them over until Bitmain releases a real fix. So he's got something on his GitHub that you can just merge into your datum tag and use. Beefs like this, Len, die hard, and Luke is a polarizing figure for a number of reasons. Ocean is a pool that people like and don't like for a number of reasons. And Bitmain is not an honest actor. They've proven this over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Luke is correct that there's been other issues with their firmware and hardware in the past, intentional or unintentional. And like I said before, not fixed until too many people are talking about it, that it's too difficult to ignore. So the plight of the home miner is one of, I'm never going to get a block. I'm never going to hit a whatever. But, you never have to really worry about stuff like this with a BitAxe. Like AxeOS is never going to give you this issue. You run brains on your BitAxe or whatever if you want, and it'll be fine. You're never going to have this problem. But if you run one of these larger scaled miners with this hardcore, with the hardcore hardware, you're at the mercy of these guys who are making it, and these guys who are making it have an axe to grind with each other. And like, Len, this is going to get better or worse as the price goes up and as hash rate goes up, and as it's going to get more competitive. It's going to be more reason to do this, more reason not to fix the bugs, more reason to be exclusive. This is not going to improve anytime soon.
Well, we don't have much competition right now. It's Bitmain provides the majority of equipment out there. I know there's What's Miner too and stuff like that, but
yeah,
really it's Bitmain is the big driver here, and everybody else is fighting. But
Bitmain is not. It's not on the hardware side. They're keeping their tech off that pool, right?
I'm trying to get to the point that if you have concerns about just the software that's connecting to the pool, something like the BitAxe, they're poaching hardware from these S19s and S21s because there is no chips that is made in-house here. They're physically taking the chips out and plugging it in and creating a BitAxe for that. We are heavily reliant on Bitmain to provide the chips for us to mine Bitcoin.
Yes.
That is very concerning in the long run. Remember one time we had Intel talking about potentially getting into the mining game, and then they stopped that.
Square,
and also Square,
Block,
yes. So there were some talks. How much research and development is required to make a dent in this? And then even once you get there, is it worthwhile? Because you're not selling to a huge amount of customers. You're selling to mainly large-scale Bitcoin miners. They're going to be the bread and butter that's going to provide you the most bang for the buck for your revenue.
Yeah.
How many of them are there? Right? It's not like it's a car where everybody's driving a car. There's not too many. Like, granted, they need tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of machines, but still, that's the biggest problem I see. Like, there's no fucking alternatives out there. And what can we do? Do we talk to a chip maker out there? Let's get this done. If so, how? Like, how do we get them
it's
to
a
get on
lot.
board?
It's a big ask.
We're stuck.
Yeah, for now.
That's the
anyway.
reality. We're
for
just
now.
stuck until something changes, and it seems like nothing is going to change.
Can't Howard Lutnick force someone to come on shore and make an American miner like Boomer's saying in the chat? Can we not do that? Howard, get it going, Howard. Come on.
So he's saying that Block is still at it. I had no.
Yeah, so
I
so is CBP. CBP also still at it. We're also building our own silicon to mine Bitcoin.
I'm gonna let's give Block credit. At least they have the facilities. They have the manpower. They got everything required to start doing this. We don't. So if they're doing it, if they're still doing it, wonderful. I look forward to seeing something released. And yeah, Bob Burnett's been working on it, but with Samsung. Samsung getting in this game would be fucking, anybody else would be fucking incredible. But Samsung is still a foreign owned company.
Yes.
Right? Like ideally it'd be nice to have a US firm do this and also have, this is a huge fucking bridge to cross, but also have all the manufacturing done within the United States. Possible? Probably not. But right, like given the cost and everything involved.
Yeah, totally.
But hey, we could ask for it, right? Like whatever. Let's talk about the Blockstream Jade, because I don't know if this is FUD or not, but
we've been ripping this wallet, so I doubt it. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, probably, it's hard to say. Like, I'll tell you what I see here, what people are saying, and you can make your own determination. Somebody named Protos on X was sounding the alarm about a critical vulnerability within a Chinese chip. This is the ESP32 chip, and this is used in some hardware devices out there. And one specifically is the Blockstream Jade, the OG Jade wallets. And Blockstream came out to say that the bug itself was an interface bug, and it's not active on the Blockstream version 1 wallet. This is also including the DIY builds for people that are doing it at home. And this does not exist at all in the Jade Plus hardware, which is the newer one that's selling for a little bit more money than the original Jade. A guy by the name of Mahavir Jain, he wrote an article to, quote, clear the air with respect to this chip. And the ESP32 chip controller, it's a Bluetooth controller, and the whole bug itself, there is a potential backdoor here. And so undocumented commands could be used by a malicious actor to devices running Bluetooth on the ESP32. So these commands are the ones that are providing people with getting access to the hardware. From what I gather, it's not available. This type of interface is not applicable within the Blockstream Jade version 1. So take that for what you will. Either it's bad, it's good, it is whatever. But I personally, I'm not going to use a Jade. I'm use something else.
That's the end of the story. There's too many, too much smoke with this thing. It doesn't even matter if there's fire at this point. There's a lot of hardware wallets, the cold card, obviously, the Q, the Mark IV, whatever, that are all just, it seems to me, better hardware devices with less controversy, with less worry, with less connectivity, and they, you're fortunate to have options, and you don't want to be this guy who's experimenting with your stack on a device that seems to be unproven. That's all I'll say. I think this is the lesson to take away from all this.
So Boomer's saying in the chat that Marty and Odell were talking about this and stuff like the block clock may also be affected and potentially bit access as well. And what I would suggest is, if that's the case, and somehow a malicious actor were to gain access and to get access to your network, because a lot of these devices are connecting by Wi-Fi. And if they could somehow figure out the Wi-Fi password to get access to your network, make sure the computers that you're running don't give any resources to any other network computers. If you run like a VPN, for instance, you could block all internet access within your intranet. And so there's lots of different ways you could do this. Learn it, because just in case there is a malicious actor out there that does gain access to one of the devices within your network, and let's be honest, there's a lot of these Internet of Things out there that we plug in. If just one of them is compromised and you have a computer that is providing information and there's not much of a barrier to get in, then whatever's on that computer could potentially be lost to these actors out there. Secondly, not just also providing some barrier from getting into your computer, try not to have anything that you shouldn't have on your computer, right? Like keywords, right?
Yep.
Like you don't want to have them on there. If you are going to have them on, maybe go through the effort of encrypting it, shit like that. Passwords, like, you know, I don't know.
It's a lot like you're playing with fire, you know,
Yeah.
the more opportunities you give and the more hardware you don't update and the more things you choose wrong when it comes to hardware wallets, or you're playing with fire. And as I said before, there's benefits to number go up, of course, but one of the downsides is that the attack, the severity of these attacks and the resources going into planning them and executing them is going to go up too. So, you owe it to yourself to be careful. Offline keys, everything air gapped. It's not that hard. It sounds complicated. It is. The paranoid guide to the MK4 is kind of annoying to follow, but man, you're going to feel good once you finish it. You're going to feel really good once you finish it. It's going to be a big part of your peace of mind for sure.
Another thing too to consider is if you have anything that has like passwords and stuff like that, like a computer, just leave it offline, turn it off, don't have it hooked up. And
totally,
that's another thing. And another last, time lock your Bitcoin, right? Like doing that. There's no $5 wrench attack or whatever it is these days, the price of that wrench that's going to get the access to that Bitcoin because it's fucking time locked.
Yep.
And that's one way you could really provide some security to your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay, Joey, MSTY.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, this is not a Michael Saylor thing. This is some other company doing it, right? We're not going to. You can't fault Michael Saylor or strategy for this because
this is levered long, right?
I'm going to give you this. I don't totally understand this. I'll give you what I gathered here.
Okay. Okay.
And so MSTY, it is the Yield Max. Right away, fucking it sounds bad. Yield Max MSTR Option Income Strategy ETF.
It's the dividend paying ETF. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
And it's trying to generate a monthly income.
Mm-hmm. Aren't we all doing that?
But the way you're doing it, at least you're parlaying your services and you're getting paid like that. They're trying to use synthetic covered call strategy, whatever the fuck that is. I'll try to explain what. I had to use AI for this.
Synthetic cover. Okay, so synthetic covered calls.
Thank you.
You may remember we had not Ben Gagnon, but his colleague there, their chief financial officer.
Yeah.
And what Bitfarms engineered in the Bitcoin space is basically the synthetic covered call to secure. There's a way to describe this, to shore up their financial picture in the event that Bitcoin has a crash. And the covered call is basically a hedge against the drop in price in Bitcoin. Now, I don't know what the synthetic call strategy is on this, but
it's that they don't hold Bitcoin directly.
Yeah.
Nor do they hold the MSTR stock directly.
Okay.
So it's
so what do they hold? Like they hold nothing. This is nuts. This is like you're asking for trouble with stuff like this. This is like when you look at the ingredient list on just fruit snacks and there's a bunch of stuff you don't recognize, and none of it is fruit and none of it is snacks. That's what this is. So you're looking at the ingredients list. There's no Bitcoin and no MSTR, but it's MSTY and it's a Bitcoin related. Like this is.
It's getting really.
Don't get crazy. Don't get crazy.
Yeah. So like it's selling options, and through that. It's either going to be call options and if they're figuring this out, and that's how they're able to potentially generate income. So that's the synthetic bullshit of all this. It truly is.
I'm out on this. What's the performance look like? There's probably a ton.
Terrible.
It's probably
take a look at the last month, 6 months, 3 months, year. It's all fucking down.
Last 6 months, 30%. Year to date, 20%. 1 year, 34%. 5 day. Even the 5 days, only 4%. So like you'd be better off. Presumably you're doing this as like MSTR is levered or like high beta Bitcoin. This is high beta MSTR. Is that the selling point? I don't know. Hard for me. It's hard for me to
I don't
want
to pump MSTR, right? But if you look at its performance in the last 3 months, 6 months, year, It absolutely ripped this to shreds.
Yeah.
The idea, that carrot that they're dangling in front of the investor out there, that monthly income, people love to get this fucking thing. They love to
Mhm.
get this steady stream of income.
People love income dividend, stuff. They love that kind of shit.
And this is right up their
What,
alley.
like, why not just like the other thing too? I'll say that I'm not, like I said, I'm not familiar with this tool, but the thing about dividend stocks is that dividend stocks don't offer like price growth a lot of the time. So if you get, it's like a dividend ETF that pays quarterly or whatever, that you can expect the dividend to keep producing for you, obviously based on the number of shares in that ETF you have and whatever the ETF holds. But you may not expect price appreciation. So there's a trade-off there for one. So maybe it's true that this price appreciation on this thing is actually not what we should expect, and the dividend should be there. But again, the same reason I still have trouble sometimes with like a huge position MSTR. If you're buying MicroStrategy because they hold the underlying, and MicroStrategy is always selling stock to buy the underlying, then why aren't you just buying the underlying? Like why aren't you just, I get that you want to like try and catch a rip, and I've done this too. I still own MSTR. Like, I'm not telling you that I've sold it all, but it does, raise some questions. If you want to stay up an extra 15 minutes and think about this in your bed at night, it's pretty easy to do. And obviously Predator is tweeting out receipts steady now about how MSTR wants you to know without any shadow of a doubt that you are not entitled to any of the coin that they think they're entitled to, and that they don't actually hold any Bitcoin themselves. So, it's not something that I would be playing games with in terms of this MSTY thing or any of the derivatives of MSTR. MSTR is volatile enough. You don't need to add more excitement to your life than what you get with Sailor. I think you're fine doing that if that's what you want to do. Good luck, obviously. But
too.
yeah, I saw.
They announced they bought more Bitcoin. It was
average price 84K or something like that. I think I saw. Not bad.
Do you think they care?
No,
with the price, they don't give a flying fuck.
They're the same as you and me in that regard, right? They think this thing is ripping. I think it's ripping. You think it's ripping, and they're buying no matter what. So
what they should be doing though is buying this MSTY and reporting on it. That would be an absolute fucking signal for the market that this thing should be ready to rip. I would love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
To see, they purchased a couple $100 million of MSTY. They want to get the steady stream of income so they could use that.
They're looking
for
the dividend.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, looking for the dividend.
Right? This is one way to buy Bitcoin, right? They're going to use that. That'd be fucking awesome.
I'm buying BMO stock for the dividend, and then I'm using it to buy.
You're right. Like, that's one. It's here's the banks. It's like CN Rail, shit like that, right there.
The telcos, I think, give a dividend too.
Yeah. And it's pretty, like you say, they don't move that much in price. I mean,
where's Simone Bélanger? We got to bring Simone back on. Tell me what dividend stocks, what dividend basket is the best one? Dividend aristocrats to get me a steady Bitcoin stream.
He's a Bitcoiner at heart, though.
I know.
Right? Like, that's the thing that.
Yeah.
Such a Fiat.
I love it. All
right. Let's see what else we'll talk about. Bhutan. Let's talk about them. It's been a while since we talked about them.
It has been.
And they're making a lot of press on X these days, given what they've been doing, and that is simply mining for Bitcoin with their excess electricity. They've made this decision a few years back, and they, throughout the year, every year, periodically, they have excess electricity, and that's when they use that to point to the Bitcoin mining equipment they have within their country, and that's what they do. And this is really more of an economic story than anything else. It's maybe somewhat related to Bitcoin, but reality, this is an economic story, but it's still interesting to talk about on our show. Al Jazeera, of all places, wrote an article about this on their website, and it's talking about, can Bitcoin save Bhutan's struggling economy? And they're saying that amid a brain drain and economic woes, Bhutan has used cryptocurrency to double the salaries of their civil servants. And they're using hydropower to mine Bitcoin. So if people are talking about the pollution that Bitcoin mining is emitting into the atmosphere, in this case, no. You could talk about the flooding of lands and stuff like that, but really there's no carbon that's being released as a result. And the Prime Minister of Bhutan is saying it's a simple strategic choice that many people have made and earned billions of dollars. And I think governments should do that. And I think governments will be looking at this in the future. And Bhutan has been struggling with their economy in the past few years. Tourism was and still is a huge part of their GDP. And there has been tremendous fluctuations for the visitors coming in after COVID. The country typically wants to bring in about 300,000. They could host up around 300,000 people per year. And last year, they got about 150,000 tourists. So, still, even in 2024, a few years after COVID, they're still about half of capacity. Youth unemployment, just like a lot of other places, is sky high, 19% in 2024.
You know what ours is, by
Government
the way? You know what ours is?
25, 24?
Ours is like 15 or 16, I'm pretty sure. So,
Oh, fuck.
you
Okay.
know, not far off, just to give you an idea of
overstated
like
it.
the dire situation here compared to our friends overseas.
And they're saying that's a struggling economy, according
Yeah.
to this article. And the government said they sold $100 million worth of Bitcoin, and they're using some of the proceeds to double the salaries of their civil servants. So people like teachers, hospital workers, shit like that have potentially been leaving the country. They're now trying to lure them to stay in the country and provide services. And to date, they have over 600 million Bitcoin worth of that they've mined as of April 9th. So again, this is more of an economic story, but other countries are going to look at this. The ones that have excess power, as long as they're able to make more mining Bitcoin than selling it to their neighbors or doing whatever the fuck they do with their excess electricity, it makes sense to look at this as an option. And I know they're doing it in Ethiopia, for instance. So there's going to be a lot more of this moving forward. But I'm not even going to go there.
Boomer in the chat. Why doesn't Bhutan just go elbows up to fix their economy?
I
That's
don't
a
wanna
great question. Does that work? Anyone know? Let's find
don't
out.
But the one thing that you can consider, as more and more capital is used to purchase Bitcoin mining equipment, so does the hash rate go up, right? We reached a record last week. We were talking around 900 exahash per second.
Yep.
So we're going to get to the zettahash. Is that what it's called? Whatever.
I think so. We talked about it. Zeta, something like that. We didn't know.
We're still trying to figure out. It's going to get to that level, right? And once it gets to that level, it's going to be because of stories like this, because there's going to be more countries out there that have access to capital. They're going to direct it towards buying equipment, energize it, and away you go. So I'm not sure if you want to add anything to this story.
Nah, not really. It's good. I enjoy that the media is covering stuff. I wish they were more creative than Bitcoin is maybe going to fix this third world economy the same way they were with El Salvador. Like we have to do better than that. I mean, the media should do better than that. Why is it working? How does this stuff benefit over there? Maybe could it benefit here as well? Let's look at there's no curiosity from the press, unfortunately, but that's what we live with every day. So I'm used to it by now. It's neat all the same. Let's leave it at that.
Cash App. That's the company
Cash App.
Is they have a jingle, or are you just making
no?
one
They
up
don't.
on
I made it up.
Okay, so very catchy.
Thank you.
People could buy Bitcoin using Cash App. This is I'm not sure where this fits within Square, but is it a subsidiary of Square or something or Block? Where the fuck it is?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
It rolls up.
Square. It's Square. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then Jack Dorsey is the guy that's behind Square, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a connection here. So they're saying with Cash App, there's going to be some fees that they're going to be putting alongside for people that are buying Bitcoin. And the fees there's a table that's provided by Cash App. I don't think it's truly reflective of what's the reality of it. So if you're going to buy between $0 and $1 of Bitcoin, 3% fee applied. $1 to $5, 5 to 25% fees apply on top, and it goes from there. So it's as high as 10% for the next groups and so forth, and it goes down to as low as 2% from $100 to $200. But what I'm trying to get at is, I'm not sure why they're doing this. Jack Dorsey has been a huge proponent of Bitcoin. I don't know how many people use Cash App to buy Bitcoin.
A lot.
And it looks like in small dollar amounts, like people were probably buying $1 here, $2 there, 50 cents here.
Yeah.
And if they are doing that moving forward, it really dings them the hardest if they're buying, say, $1 or just a little bit over $1. And that's where it's close to 25% fees. And, when you're talking 25% fees on $1 may not seem like a lot, but if you're doing multiple buys over a long enough period of time, that could really be a huge amount. And really, I'm not sure how the structure works, how people use Cash App to buy Bitcoin. But in my opinion, just looking at this chart, it's in your best interest to buy anything above $100. That's where it's really going to be the cheapest for you. In fact, it really gets cheap when you get past $5,000, but I'm not sure how many people are using Cash App to buy 5K worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, maybe find something else out there, maybe River or something else to get you your Bitcoin. Doesn't seem all that good. Like just doing this.
It's not. And the other thing I was trying to think about here, I should have looked this up before we started the show, but it just occurred to me now. You and me have talked in the past. I gotta stop saying talked. We have spoken in the past about the issue with some of these non-custodial peer-to-peer exchanges and how there's, too much of a markup on spot and people don't want to use them because that markup is unpalatable. If you look at something like Cash App or ShakePay or whatever, right? And so they'd rather give up their privacy and use one of these other services than pay an extra 5% and use something that's peer-to-peer, even though it, is relatively trustworthy. Let's be honest. There's not too many stories about people getting rugged on Bisq or RoboSats or HODL HODL. How many more fee hikes and minimum hikes can we see from a company like Cash App before people start looking at other options and end up going down this peer-to-peer road? This is the reason I'm asking this, and the reason I think this is interesting is because typically the government has been an enemy of apps like Cash App, right? In terms of buying Bitcoin. And I would say they probably still are at some level. They don't want people buying Bitcoin too much, just a little bit so that they feel like they can have some and be agile and all these things that Bitcoin brings. But if they buy too much, they become a problem for the government. Cash App as a player in this whole game has a responsibility to its customers, but also it has a responsibility to government, right? Government wants these apps and services to be transparent. And if they start pushing people into non-transparent purchasing options, then those fees become an issue for the government. So there's a lot going on here, and it's kind of a half fleshed out thought. But I do think that the higher these fees go, the more likely people start using off the grid services. And then I don't know what happens with some of these apps and with what the government expects in terms of information dumps and transparency reports and all these things, KYC, AML laws. I'm not sure, but you can't raise the fees forever. Eventually people will say like, okay, now it's worth learning about this other service, this third service, right? And they may not be there yet, but they're getting closer. And this one ruffled a lot of feathers. This was on Twitter quite a bit when it was announced.
Jack Dorsey, of all people.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's
running a business, man. If the business is not doing that well and they decide they want some more money or it's, greater cost than they originally thought, like it's obviously his prerogative. I just wonder, but like I said earlier, I wonder about the stuff I mentioned there, but also, why raise the fee on Bitcoin? Are you tapped on the other options that you have? I don't know. Well, I guess there's only one way to find out, right? We'll just have to wait and see.
That's it, Joey. That's it for the Bitcoin stuff. Almost an hour in. Let's move on to the rest.
Yeah. Stay here if you're on audio, or if you're on video, I should say, and watching live. If you're on audio, come back tomorrow for the second half. I guess everyone's on video now that we're posting video and not audio, but you get the picture. If you're here already, just hang out. If you're not here live, then tomorrow you get more. Till then, take care of yourselves.
Don't be a cock.
Yeah. You want to see something wild? So I made this video. Oh God. I made this video the other day on the football channel. This is what a ball looks like when you get it. This like super abrasive orange color. Okay. And basically you can pay somebody to break this in for you if you don't want to break it in yourself. It's a bit of a pain to break these in, honestly. Like if you're not in the league or something, like what are you going to do? You're going to throw it in your backyard. Even in a league, it takes a long time to break it in. So there's a demand for this like break-in, mudding, softening, making the ball sticky, all this stuff. And I've been trying to come up with my own process so I don't have to buy like fancy mud from the States, which is a thing. Get fancy conditioners from the States, which is a thing. Pay somebody to do a ball, which is also a thing. This is what I came up with. This is my best product yet. This ball's never been thrown outside. It's never been used in a game. And it is so soft and so sticky. Can you hear that?
Yeah. Are you putting stickum on that?
No. It's like so well done.
They outlined stickum. What the fuck are you doing
nuts.
at putting it on there?
It is nuts how good this turned out. and I've done this a few times now. That's the original color there, obviously. I am so hyped on this. I bought this ball for $200 on Amazon, and I wanted to. I said on the other channel, I'll sell it at cost, just because I want to get some balls in people's hands that maybe can't afford the service or don't want to pay somebody or whatever.
How long did it take you to do it?
Actual working time, an hour maybe. Waiting time, a lot more. You have to leave.
Tell me the process.
A couple times.
You put it on. Do you cure it somehow?
Okay,
Like
you brush first with this. You take one of these nylon brushes, brush it. Okay, you get it to a certain color, certain texture. You just know. You know when it's not improving anymore or darkening. I put leather honey on it. Let it sit overnight. Next day, brush it again. Mix. I take some mud from my backyard. Get rid of all the rocks that I can find. Squish it down as tight as I can. Takes like maybe 10 minutes. Put it in a coffee filter. Put some water in there. Drain the coffee out so the dirt's all wet. Put the dirt in a cup, add some leather milk conditioner, just like a teaspoon, mix it up, slather it on the ball. And then after that, you wait a day, like let it sit overnight, come back the next day, brush it all into the ball, then put the leather honey on again, let it sit for a couple hours, brush it, and this is what you end up with.
We have enough people that are incarcerated that probably have enough free time, and mud may be plentiful in some of the yards in which they
oh
go, right?
My
so
God.
right, like why can't we do this?
You're gonna be doing the
why not?
On my corner? Oh my God!
You always hear the story of them stamping plates and shit like that, right? Like, I don't know if that's just a fairy tale.
I'm gonna put a link to the video. I'm gonna put a link
to
the video that I did with that ball in the chat. It's very good. BTC Priestess said on Twitter earlier that the video is erotic. It's not erotic. I have a good radio voice and I'm not even in the video. It's just me talking over video that I took of the process. It's fun. Anyway, let's talk about some notable whatever. I'm into it.
Okay, let's
find
do
out.
something else before we go north, right?
Sure.
Coachella, right?
Coachella. God.
Right? Did you hear about this story?
Of course. How could I not? BNPL Central over there.
And I don't know, like how
the tickets are about $700 US, I think.
Well, I have here for
that's not
the
really
base
that much,
level.
Len.
The base level one day was $350.
American.
Yeah, I'm talking USD here.
Okay.
And the 3-day pass on StubHub was $547. That's as low as that much. So that's what we're talking for a 3-day pass on StubHub versus, and also the 1-day pass, the base level tickets. So, well, apparently 60%, this is according to Billboard, 60% of attendees finance their tickets to attend the festival. Like, how hard up are you to fucking, you have to
You know
go.
what the worst part is? You know
Holy
what you can't finance? All the MDMA you buy, the tickets to the shows, the beers you buy in the festival field. Like, it's an expensive, going to a festival costs a lot of money. Okay. It's not cheap. And you go there and it's not a place where you're counting your dimes and nickels. You're spending money that you want to spend to have a good time. That's all there is to it. So these guys who are financing, like,
this is end of Fiat.
Oh,
right?
Big time. You gotta think, man, you finance a ticket. You gotta, like, chances are you fly in, right? So you got hotels to pay for.
Some sort of
just
some sort of
tons of debt being taken on by these guys. This is
and
like the stuff that's
what do you
keeping the
get out of this?
running.
And I'm not trying to shit on it. It must be.
What do you get out of it? You get Bernie Sanders showed up on stage and gave a fucking rant about Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Talk about ruining a fucking mushroom trip or like an acid trip.
Maybe
old man Bernie
experience
up there, Len, talking about this shit. It's not an experience anymore because it's fucking political. It's nonsense.
But there's nothing you could get out of that. It's not like you're getting something tangible in your hand that you could, I used it up. Now I could sell it and try to recoup the cost from it, like an old car, for instance.
Yeah.
It's just a service. You go and you
burn,
and it's it. And you leave with a memory. Great if you could afford it, but for those, I'm not sure how truthful this is 60% of people that financed it. And also, I'm not sure if they're financing it just for the temporary. Maybe they have funds and they're getting 0% financing on this, right? Like maybe it makes financial sense to do this, and just
maybe they're buying like a bunch of tickets together. I've done that in the past.
I don't know.
If I got a few friends who are going, I'll buy them all. But I've always just used my credit card. Like I don't.
It's just a scary.
I've done BNPL just to try it out, but I think where did I see the other month that like BNPL is now having problems collecting from people for the first time. And if you have a debt with one of these buy now pay later companies, if you're like with, I don't know what is the name of them, Klarna is one, I don't know the other ones, but the rate is like 32%. So it's higher than a department store credit card, which I think capped out around 28, 29 in the 90s. I don't know what it is now. Maybe it's 32 as well, but it's a big number, you know? Like you're not going to have fun with $5,000 worth of buy now, pay later debt at 32%. That's going to cost you a bunch of money.
There is no answer to.
You could have just mudded some footballs to make ends meet, but instead you.
But then you'd be fighting against all this competition, and right, like you don't want them to be doing this. You want them to be doing something else that's not going to impact your ability to mud balls.
That's true.
Right? Let's let you.
I got to be the only guy throwing mud on balls on the internet. So
I want to talk about Lancaster, California. Let's still stay in the California thing, by the way. And this is a city or town. 166,000 residents live there as of 2023. And their mayor, the Lancaster mayor, Rex Paris, double R in Paris, by the way, he says the homeless issue has been, it's really problematic over there.
Yeah.
And one way to deal with it, he says they should be giving them all the fentanyl they want.
What are they doing now? What are they doing now?
Maybe it's not enough to give them in order for the end result to have been achieved, right? Man, to say that this is one way to deal with the homeless, because nobody's going to open up the cupboards and say it's going to be unlimited access to it, and this is going to be a good ending for the user. It's basically going to end up where, unfortunately, they'll most likely end in a box.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, like this guy is very interesting. Did some research on Mr. Rex Paris. This guy's been the mayor 6 consecutive terms. So it's quite a while. Back in 2012, they changed the mayoral terms from 2 years to 4 years as an example of some people are claiming it manipulating the democratic process. But either way, that's what somebody's. It's beautiful stuff. This guy is just wonderful. I love seeing a story like this. Another like late stage Fiat moment here. Just
truly.
Here you go. All the drugs you want. Oh, by the way, we'll also pay for your Coachella ticket. Just fucking go to attend there. What a fucking disaster. How do you recommend this as a way to like deal with the homeless? It's
insane. It's insane. Kill them, basically, is what he's saying, right? Let them go out in a blaze of glory, bent over on fentanyl. Listen, I know it's funny to talk about these stories sometimes, at least, maybe not funny, but it's like, shocking enough that you have a laugh about it. California is in big shit. Like that whole state is in trouble in a major way. Newsom is trying to run for president. I cannot wait to see what his campaign looks like. Kamala Harris still, operating in that region of the world. Pelosi, Schumer, Schumer may be on the East Coast, but like the number of people who are winning elections there for 40 and 50 years in a row, and the results that they've produced, it's almost unthinkable. I recommend people follow and listen to Adam Carolla if you want to hear what it's like to be a citizen in these regions, talking about the recovery from the fires. And he's obviously been on TV with Newsom a few times, produced some very uncomfortable results for Gavin. And I think that he's a guy who has the resources to just ignore this stuff and is choosing instead to take it head on. I've messaged him and tried to get him on the show, emailed his producer and didn't hear back. But I still would love to have Ace Man on this program, because I think he's like us, looking at this and going, how the fuck are these guys saying this stuff out loud? And how the fuck did we stop them? And I this story is just, it's disgusting. We don't want to help these people. We want to get them as addicted to drugs as we can. And then when they become too big of a problem for the economy, we should just let them go out in a, blaze of glory. It's just inhumane, completely disgusting.
You watched the debate last week? We had a couple of them.
I did. I watched both French language and English language. I do feel pretty good about my French, I have to say, even though I haven't been speaking it regularly for a few months now. I can more or less understand the debate, which is probably an indictment of the candidates' French more than a pat on the back, as far as my own. But I digress. Did you watch them?
The second, the English one, not I watched briefly the French one, and what I did watch of it, I have to admit that I was impressed with Carney's ability to communicate in French.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be far worse, but he was able to communicate, to basically formulate sentences and converse, debate, like on the fly.
Yeah,
and that requires a level of competence of the language, and he has that. You can say what you want about his accent, but he seemed to have done really well with picking up the language, the French language. And the English one was interesting. Like both debates they did not allow the Green Party to attend.
Mm-hmm.
So why? What's the rationale for that? I'm curious.
They have two leaders, and the debate commission is basically saying you can't do it. They put up a fight, and then the debate commission said, look, our job is to put up candidates who have a real chance at either forming government or contributing to government policy, and you guys are neither. And they also pointed to that the Green Party doesn't run candidates in the minimum 80% of ridings. So
They don't?
No, so that's another problem with their party. Plus, Elizabeth May is just constantly screaming at the microphone, like she has no volume control. It's like just this like screaming harpy all the time. It's really intolerable. You can't even listen to her talk.
I'm surprised they still have two. Like, what's the rationale?
This is new.
For them
It's
to say,
new. It's new. This 2-liter thing is new. Liz was the only leader for a long time, and this other guy is like my age. It looks like maybe a little older, a little younger, but he's like, what is the point of having this guy? You know,
I know that.
So to Boomer's point, the Bloc Québécois, that I think there's criteria that are. So Boomer's asking, why does the Bloc get to have a candidate
or the NDP?
The NDP contributes to the government, right? They can make that
the
case.
Bloc certainly will, if depending on where they land.
That's what I think too, and I think too there's some other criteria that are a little more foggy and up for interpretation. And at the end of the day, my honest feeling is that the debate commission just didn't want to deal with the Green Party and their nonsense, so they said you can't participate. And there's really no pushback. With the Green Party, just doesn't have the media presence or the media competency to make a statement about that. So. Is what it is. And Elizabeth May might lose her seat as well, as Polly points out in the chat. Yeah, she is down right now in British Columbia.
They've peaked in the last couple elections, and this is it. Now they're going to, just like the NDP, they peaked 2 elections ago. Yeah, more than 2 elections, 4 or 5 elections ago. And they're going to get absolutely destroyed this time around. Jagmeet Singh did not have a good presence at either of the 2 debates.
No.
And it seems very strange that like he's still going out there saying that he's going to become prime minister. If he could, maybe I don't know if this is the best strategy.
Well, you remember what happened with a similar situation here in Ontario years ago, right? With Kathleen Wynne. You can probably speak to that more than me, but she, I think, is the only candidate ever to come out like a week before an election and say, we're not going to win. You got to vote for somebody else. Yeah. That was the last time she ran.
He should say, look, we're not going to win. All signs are pointing we're going to be a small party at best. All right. Let's try to get to the minimum 12 seats to be considered a party where we get funding and shit like that. But he's still talking about becoming prime minister. Like that talk, buddy, just let it go, because you have, at this particular moment, just looking at everything in front of me, it's got no chance, 0 chance. And it looks like he's not going to win his seat either. They're going to be down to like 7, 8, 9, 10 seats, and they're fucked. This is the second time in like 30 years that they're not going to have official party status. And this time around, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to recover, given where the Liberals have moved in the political spectrum. They may be able to truly swallow up the NDP.
Yeah, they need to win, right? They need the NDP to stay weak to win this election. Where do you, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about the Liberal platform. We don't have to, but
what about, let's talk about the Conservative platform. I want to talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
We rag on the Libs all the time. The Conservative platform is out. It's
is it?
It's not costed, but it's GST reduction. I have it up here on the screen actually. Hold on. Right, did it's GST reduction among other things, but there's a few points that have started to be leaked out here. Let's see. CPC platform is out. Balanced budget by 26. Elimination of the GST. Removal of income tax for the bottom 40% of earners. Reduction of corporate income tax to 5%. I would like that. We have a corporation.
Go to our website.
Increase defense spending to 2.5 GDP points. 5 LNG ports. East-West oil and LNG pipelines.
Go to their website, conservative.ca, and tell me this website says very little. Because what I see
is this even their platform, or is this something that they just got rugged on? I don't know. Yeah, it's hard for me to tell, but
this is par for the course. It's not the first time we had parties that don't release a platform. But now go to their website and just look at how bare bones it is. They got a section on merch. You can buy fucking merch.
Anything good?
I didn't even bother looking. I'll take a look right now. Let's see what we got.
I don't think Pierre's going to win.
And it
I
goes
want
to
to just
bringithome.ca.
I want to just note I want to note that I said on this show over and over and over again that Pierre Poilievre is not a good politician and he's not going to beat Mark Carney. And I think that
You
that's
don't
going
think
to
of,
wind up being correct. I think they're going to lose. And I
wait,
compare
sorry,
this
I want to just make sure who's going to win. Who's going to form government? Who's going to have the most seats?
liberals.
Liberals, really?
Yeah, it's going to be
Are they going to have
Yeah,
majority and minority?
It's going to be a majority.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a liberal majority. That's where I'm planting my flag. And I know Paulie's saying I said Kamala was going to win. Yeah, I was wrong about that, but I think this one is I think this one's a done deal. I just want to say that the reason I think this is because if I look at the way I tweeted out a clip today of Carney handling someone screaming about the WEF at a press conference or like
he did a good job, I thought.
He did a good job. He did a great job parrying that question. I don't like Mark Carney. I don't think he's a good politician either, and I don't think he's going to be a good prime minister. But
I laughed at his response.
So did I.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah, he's like got the earpiece and he's like, I'm waiting for the instructions. I was laughing at that. I did think that was pretty fucking funny. Like, good for you, Mark. That was a good gag. And like I look at that moment and I look at how big a difference there is in the way that he speaks and is able to control a crowd compared to when he started the campaign. And then I look at Poilievre over the last 3 years and how much has he improved as a politician. And I would argue that he just hasn't improved at all. He's regressed. And I thinking about it since I sent the tweet out and talked to a few of you guys on Twitter, I would compare this to like playing Madden. Okay. Sometimes my brother and I play franchise mode together online. We're obviously in our 30s now. I don't see him as often as I'd like. And we used to play together as kids. One of the things we still do is rip a franchise together. And when I look at, the way that he plays, sorry, Matt, if you're listening, when I look at the way that he plays against the CPU teams, he drafts a lot of speed guys and just throws bombs over and over again. He beats the piss out of the CPU, even on the most difficult setting. But then when he runs into my team, a user-controlled team, I know how to handle it. And he's got too many bad habits. He's had things too easy for too long. He doesn't know how to change his strategy, doesn't know how to run between the tackles, doesn't know how to control the clock, doesn't know how to stop the run. And I look at Poilievre, and that's what I see, honestly. I see a guy who's been playing on easy mode for 3 years against the least popular candidate in Canadian history, I think, in Trudeau, and the least popular party. And he hasn't, for all the things he has done well, like he did have a good answer to the security clearance question at the debate the other night. I thought that was well played by him. He hasn't been able to parry or reframe any of the big questions of this election. And the big questions didn't just show up. They came in November when Trump was elected. How are we going to deal with the United States? Trump is the elephant in the room. Cost of living is too high. Housing is a crisis, blah, blah, blah. And he hasn't been able to reframe those questions. Now, I will freely admit, and I think there's a valuable point to be made here. I don't know, what the weighting on this should be, but Carney has led a campaign that's really been given a lot of benefit of the doubt. He doesn't get a lot of tough questions. He's able to say things that most politicians would not get away with the press. That Rosie Barton thing would have been news for a week. If Pierre Poilievre told Rosie Barton to look inward and stop having ill will toward him, like that would have been a week-long media event. Telling Rebel News reporters that you're asking an odd question, but I'll answer it anyway. I thought, should have been maybe pasted. He should have been pasted for that a little more. But at the end of the day, I look at the two candidates and if I'm really serious about who I think is going to win, and also if I'm really serious about who I think is a better politician, not who will make a better prime minister, but who I think is a better politician, it's Carney. And Poilievre, this is an all-time bag fumble if he loses. And it's a bag fumble for the country too. I mean, I can't imagine anyone who's given this any thought voting for Carney. But I mean, as we see the, double birds, old man in the parking lot and these other people like chasing people away at these events. And I'm not convinced that liberal voters are at all concerned about the actual state of affairs. They are much more concerned about the vibe, the Trump thing, and can we protect our equity portfolio? It's funny too. If equities keep having bad days here and the market crashes another, let's say it loses another 3, 4, 5%, what is that going to do to the voting the voting patterns of everyone over 50 is going to make them more likely to vote conservative or less likely to vote conservative in the coming election. I'm not saying it's correct, but it seems to me that this is the way these guys are leaning. And when I go to the polls on Monday, I'm going to see if I don't see anyone under 40, at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whenever I go, and if I see in front of my house here, because I live on a sort of walking path to the voting area, the voting site. If I see a lot more older people than I see younger people, I'm gonna be worried about that. I can't, and I've said this before, I can't stress this enough. Boomers have been insulated from everything that their voting patterns have inflicted on the rest of us for the last 15, 20 years. They bought houses as that asset was monetizing when we went off the gold standard. They bought equities and got into defined benefit pensions as those became popular and ETF investing started, and price to earnings ratios got from 5 to 10, and forward PE now is like 25 or 35, depending on where you look. Everything is overpriced and they own it all. And I don't blame them for doing that, but this election, if they vote for Carney, because of the currency weakness, I've said this before, they will feel pain that they have not felt in their entire lives. And it'll be bittersweet because I don't want boomers to feel pain, but I think they need to, because they have to remember this lesson. And right now they've yet to be taught it. And I think that Mark Carney and the Liberal government, if they win a majority, will be a very competent teacher of the reasons not to go through this again.
Quite a soliloquy. Who's going to win Quebec?
Bloc.
Really?
Yeah, I think I would love Blanchet to be the president, or the prime minister. I think he's the best politician of the bunch. He's got great stage presence, very competent, great one-liners, good with the media. That guy's he's a hero. That guy.
How many seats are in Quebec? Is it?
I'm getting pasted in the comments here by people. Like, because if you agree or disagree, I'll just tell you that it doesn't matter. I don't, like I said, I don't want this to be the outcome. But if I have to put my chips somewhere, like this is where I'm going to put them.
So the number of seats in Quebec, it's 70 or 90. I forget what the number is. Whatever the fuck it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that the Bloc is going to get the majority over there,
yeah,
where do the Liberals win enough to get a majority?
Everywhere else.
To do that, the Conservatives in 2011 were able to form a majority government without winning Quebec.
Yeah.
And they did this by doing very well in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, which doesn't equate to a heck of a lot of seats, but they need it. They did well out east. They did well in Ontario, specifically in the 905, and even a little bit in 416. They got some ridings that flipped. They beat Ignatieff in Etobicoke Lakeshore, for instance. So they got some 416 ridings. So to have done that, they had to win every other province and done so handily. So the Liberals to win a majority government without winning Quebec has to follow the same path. Are they going to sweep the Atlantic province? Okay, we'll say maybe.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Okay, we'll give you that. I suspect probably not, but we'll give you this. They have to do fucking great in Ontario, including the 416 and 905. If they fumble there, if they don't get almost an entire a sweep or close to a sweep, they cannot form a majority government.
How many voters did the Liberal government add through immigration to 416, 905, and British Columbia? How many?
That's a good question.
2 million? 2 million in the last 4 years? 5 years?
No.
How many?
Because to have done this, you would have, you're talking through liberal policy and ideas.
Yeah.
They came into power in 2015. If somebody hypothetically applied to become an immigrant to Canada under a new liberal strategy, a new liberal idea, it probably would have taken a few years for their application to have been processed and come to Canada. So they probably arrived in, say, 2020, 2021. 2021. Nobody came in 2020. Then at that point, you have to wait some time before you could apply for citizenship. So you're only getting the very first tranche of people that came and applied in 2015, 2016, 2017. They added 2 million people in Toronto, but don't think they were all Canadian citizens. They may eventually become Canadian citizens.
Since 2015?
Correct. if it's from 2015, the majority came in the last 5 years. They are not Canadian citizens.
Yeah. Okay.
They may influence, they could go out, knock on doors, hammer in signs, shit like that, but they have no way legally to
The other
go and
thing,
cast a ballot and say, I'm voting for this particular person. They don't have the ability. They don't have it. Right.
okay, so we disagree maybe on the volume of new Liberal voters. I don't know exactly what it is, but you make a good point. The other concern I would have if I was banking on 905 or 416 is that conservative voters have left those areas and moved to areas where there's insulation from these policies, and so these areas still vote orange or red. I live in one of them here in Dundas. You know, we left Hamilton Mountain and moved here. I don't think this is going to be a conservative stronghold by any stretch. And, you know, I'm no longer voting in an area that probably had a chance to go conservative, right? Because I didn't want to stay there. And so that's another problem. You've had basically 5 years, I think, of that type of exodus, or 4 years of that type of exodus since 21. I don't know in what numbers exactly. You know, you could look at maybe the real estate market and find out, you know, how many listings, how many vacancies, stuff like that. But I really think that in the chat, these guys are saying it too, that the Trump thing is just so overwhelming and people are hypnotized by this. It's an 8-year project at this point, you know, from 2016 to now, to paint this guy as the biggest villain the world has ever seen. And it's worked on the boomers, and the boomers are bored. They're excited to vote. It's something that they take pride in. They feel a sense of camaraderie and community doing this. Clearly, I mean, you look at the videos online, there's no doubt they feel this way. I don't know.
I'm just looking at,
yeah.
I try to compute this in my head. The only way that the Liberals can do, and I'm on the fence. I'm not sure if it's going to be conservative majority or conservative minority.
You think they're going to win though?
I think they're going to have the most seats.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to say. I'm not sure if there's going to be a coalition.
Are they going to win the popular vote? Because the Liberals can win the most. They can win a
Yes.
majority without getting the popular vote, right? That's another
Yes.
fun quirk of our system. It's not just that it's not just they'll hold government. They'll have a majority with less votes than the other parties.
No, they'll get the popular vote, and whoever gets the most seats. I mean, historically,
what's the turnout going to be in this election? You think 65, 70?
Almost 70%. I'll say.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Not quite there, but almost. It's going to be higher than previous years. We had 61, I think. One of the previous years was Harper was running.
33 and 21. That was the turnout.
No, I don't think it was that low in 20, unless it was a COVID thing that really. It's usually in the 60s.
We'll check.
Maybe the high. We don't only for by-elections do you get it that fucking low, and even then maybe that's too high. Maybe it's even lower for a.
It was 62%. Yeah, 62%. There you go.
And that was a COVID year. Imagine that people were kind of scared and stuff like that.
17 million people voted in that election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to go back, Poilievre, did he like stumble, or did he just stand his ground?
He stood his ground.
And everybody else kind of caught up to him, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Okay, that's an interest. I still think this party's gonna become like form the most or have the most seats in the House of Commons. And let's see if that's going to be enough to form government or not.
I
mean, I don't. You know what? Whatever happens, happens. Like I say, I could worry about things. I could think about things will happen regardless of these things. The only thing I could do is I could go out and vote for Bitcoin, and that's what I'm going to be voting for. And I just write in I vote for Bitcoin and put a big B in there. So this is going to be fucking fun to watch next week. We're going to have a good show, but I'm going back to like Quebec. Who's going to win that? And I don't think the Bloc is going to win that. Some Federalist Party has to win Quebec, or has to at least get a chunk of seats from there. Which Federalist Party? 2011, the NDP were that Federalist Party.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, it's been the Liberals. Now, the Quebec doesn't tend to vote for an Anglophone Liberal leader. So, just looking at this, they're not going to vote NDP. They never vote conservative. They've only done so once in the past 40-something years, where that was when Mulroney got into power. They never vote for an Anglophone Liberal leader. You have to go back 50, 60 years to find this. I just can't figure out who the fuck Quebecers are going to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the deciding factor of this election, is whoever gets those votes. If the Bloc wins the most votes, then the Conservatives are going to be the winners here, I think. if the Liberals get a bunch of votes in Quebec, then the Liberals have a good chance of forming government. That's the only way I look at it. There has to be one Federalist Party that's represented in totality there.
Yeah.
There always is. Who is it going to be?
You think it's going to be Poilievre, obviously. Yeah.
No, they never vote for Conservatives.
Yeah, but he's the closer Francophone. Like, I don't know.
I just don't. And considering the idea of them with pipelines and shit like that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's true too. That's true too. We have to have an honest discussion in this country. Like, I don't often speak, so I don't know what the word would be, hyperbolically maybe, about what's possible and what we should do. But the pipelines thing really is like annoying to me, because I keep on hearing we have to engage with like Six Nations tribes and the Quebec. Yeah, we don't have to do land acknowledgement. Yeah, unceded territories, blah blah blah. We shouldn't be engaging with native bands anymore on issues of national security and prosperity. Pipelines, like, if it's through a reserve, it's through a reserve. I don't care what you think anymore. If we need to go through Quebec to get oil and gas or LNG to the East Coast, then we do it. It's not up to the Francophones to tell us what we can and can't do anymore. It's hard discussion, and like, I know maybe the bull guys would get pissed that I said that, because those guys they're truly great Quebecers, but I don't know what to do. Like, either you break the country up and start being serious about what it means to be a unified nation, or you do what we're doing now, which is Carney talking about we have to unify and then not actually doing anything, and Pierre talking about we have to do it without being unified and then not actually do anything either. Like nothing changes, right? It's all this. It's consultation without momentum, and you're just costing yourself at every turn. Any bit of unity that you're able to build, you give it back because some special interest is not.
Everybody.
You don't fluff them enough, right? You don't massage until climax, and the guy gets pissed, and you don't get your fucking pipeline. We got to be past that. We have to be past that. We cannot keep doing this all the time. You can say what you want about the United States and the federalist model, but when it comes to pretty important stuff, like military spending, their politicians are aligned. When it comes to stuff like language, their politicians are aligned. When it comes to stuff like energy, their politicians, although they may not say it, they vote in alignment. And that's why that country is so successful, because they consult only on television. When they need to get stuff done, they just fucking do it. And we don't. We're the opposite. And we have to stop being that way.
Does anything change?
No. Buy Bitcoin. This is it. You got to have a stack, man. I can't stress this enough. You got Carney talking about, him and von der Leyen behind closed doors, like, slamming margs and talking CBDC, and Pierre seems unwilling to make a case for any of this stuff. Pierre, by the way, on Easter, celebrating in a Sikh headdress somewhere in the 416, if I had to guess. Like, you gotta have Bitcoin, because whatever you think is going to happen, depending on who wins. I know I talked about Runway before, and I still believe that, but like, you're just delaying the inevitable here, and you got to be ready to GTFO, capital B, bounce, like someone said in the chat earlier. So keep your options open.
Ever the People Party will ever become a viable alternative?
They can't.
Why not?
Because the
Reform Party and Alliance, they spun out an idea, right? And now we have them as now the alternative to the Liberal Party.
It's not feasible.
Why not? I
don't make the rules, man. I'm just telling you, it's not feasible.
All right.
What is the path for them?
They're something different.
Bernier doesn't speak English that well. He's not particularly likable. I know someone in the chat said Bernier's been doing the rounds and sounds good. He doesn't sound good. He never sounds good. He doesn't have a platform outside of I'm not them and send immigration to zero. Good idea, by the way, but it's not enough to be recognized at any important level nationally. So
maybe they're the Federalist Party that's going to take Quebec.
Could you imagine the meltdown on CBC's fucking 10-person panel?
If they could get one seat, that's going to make a lot of people. It's going to trigger a lot of folks out there.
Yeah.
And the only seat I think that they could potentially win it, I guess, it's Maxime Bernier's seat. And I don't know where he's running, but I'm not sure what chance he has.
I mean, we'll talk to Francis about this too. He's got his finger on the pulse of that region probably more than most. So
Well,
I'd be
he's
interested to
lived
hear what he
there.
has to say. Yeah, of course. I'd be interested to hear what he has to say about it. But
And
yeah,
he has shoes.
yeah,
He has. I've seen him. He has shoes.
he
He's
does.
not
He
just a
does.
sandal wearer or a
So
barefoot
he's
dude.
living. He can walk the streets in Quebec this time of year. I don't
Yeah.
know what. Okay, so maybe we'll finish with this. What I mean, we're going to talk about this Monday night, but I want to just tell people what I'm expecting to cover. I want to talk to these guys about what the campaigns got right, what the campaigns got wrong, what the candidates could have done better individually, and I want to talk about the blind spots for Canada. What do Canadians think they know, and what do they not know that they don't know? That yielded even this much uncertainty on this show, and polls are obviously looking very bleak. And I want to hear what those guys think, Tom
What's
and
bleak?
Francis and Mark.
You know the reality, Joey?
What?
As long as there's people voting, and it's going to sound like whatever the fuck, people are exercising their right. If they
Yeah.
want to vote for this person or that person, all the more power.
No,
man,
totally.
because
I totally agree. Yeah.
they're doing what
That's
they think is
democracy.
best for them.
Yeah, it's democracy. Yeah.
That's democracy, right? And everybody has an opportunity to do whatever they want. They
Yeah.
could vote with their wallet, their feet. There's lots of different ways you
Yeah.
could vote, right?
Failed organizational principle, by the way, democracy. But that's a story for another time.
Kent Brockman, didn't he say that democracy just doesn't work?
Doesn't work.
Doesn't
They never
work.
do what I want.
Kent Brockman.
Let's get the fuck out of here. That's it for
Do it.
tonight. Twan tomorrow with Len. And we'll be back with more fire later in the week with the Quick Current. Don't forget to check out Access of Easy too. We like that show. We do that show. And if you ever want to darken up a football, you know where to find me. Until then, take care of yourselves.
Don't be a cock.